So some of you already know, I just released a video on my main channel about vegan gains where I explored his past, his history, and a big part of that video was me getting to talk to him in person. I actually met up with him, we went to the gym, we went to dinner a few times, and it was a lot of fun. And within that video is also a very long interview we did. But in the main channel video, I only included small snippets of that interview. This is that full interview for whoever wants to watch the entire thing. It's about an hour long. It's a really interesting talk. I think you guys will enjoy our chemistry a little bit. And I think that you'll probably learn a lot about vegan gains that you didn't know before. And overall, it's just a really interesting talk. So yeah, check it out. All right. I guess we're here for I don't really know which podcast this is, but this is the first official episode. And I'm here with a very special guest. Why don't you state your name, your YouTube name, and then what you do?
Yeah, my name is Richard, last name Burgess. That's already been leaked online, so whatever. My YouTube channel is Vegan Gains. I'm a vegan animal rights activist, and that's what most of my content centers around, but I also do health and fitness, and political stuff, and social issues.
How long have you been doing YouTube?
It's been like 8-9 years. I think it's almost 10 years now.
How long have you been doing it full time as your job?
Pretty much as soon as I started.
Really?
Like even before I started making money, I put a lot of time and effort into it.
Were you just confident that it would work out?
No, I just was unemployed, didn't really have anything better to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that after high school?
Yeah,
Okay.
after.
Well, speaking of high school, I think a lot of people probably don't know much about your early life, if I had to guess. Have you talked about it a lot in videos at all?
Yeah, I've shared like a number of interesting stories on stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what was your high school and I guess education experience like in general? What kind of kid were you? How did kids see you?
Yeah, I was like the autistic kid who was weird, had few friends, but they were quality friends, that type of thing. I really butted heads with teachers a lot. Didn't usually have too many problems with students, but teachers got into a lot of fight with teachers.
What were those fights like? Like, what were your issues with them? Was it over like the academic curriculum? Was it over just like petty stuff?
A lot of petty stuff. I think I've had some racist teachers.
Really?
Because they seem to have like picked on me specifically.
Okay.
There was one teacher in grade 4. I think her name was Miss Fraser. She literally looked like that teacher from South Park, the fat ugly chick that replaced Mr. Garrison.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she would kind of single me out in class. Like if anybody was talking, like if it would always be me that got like told to shut up. And there was this kid named David in the class, white kid. He would tease me and stuff, and he tried to bully me, but he was like way smaller. So
in like a racist way, or
no, I don't think he was racist. Like he would just try to bully me, but because he was smaller, he had to do like stupid like steal stuff for me, like steal my pencil case.
Yeah. And
he would lie to the teacher and say that it was like his stuff that he was stealing, and then the teacher would always side with him. So. There's no particular reason why she would always side with him that I can think of other than, yeah, I almost killed him.
You almost killed him?
Yeah.
What does that
mean?
Grade
4. Yeah, the teacher one time told us to go pick up files from the principal's office.
Yeah.
And they had like the buddy system. So for whatever reason, she knew I hated him, but she had me and him go down. And it was, I think, a 4-story building, 3 or 4 stories. And right at the top of the railing, and it was like straight down from the railing, grabbed his neck, hung him over the railing, and I was going to throw him over and kill him because I didn't like him. And he was begging and pleading for his life. And I was savoring the moment for a while. And then I guess some synapses in my brain started firing, and I figured I probably won't be able to get away with murder. So I just spared his life.
No one caught you or anything?
No, he didn't say shit.
Public service announcement before I go any further. Turkey Tom Enterprises, Industries, and events. Turkey Tom Events does not condone anything Vegan Gains says. We do not endorse it. We are simply attempting to document an interesting man. We do not support any of this. We're just goofy guys, okay? Thank you.
I think he was too
scared of
afraid
you.
or
He
something.
thought you were gonna kill him.
I almost shot him with a bow and arrow too.
So you hung him off by his legs or something?
No, I grabbed him by his throat and I just hung him right over the railing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And you're like threatening to toss him over.
Yeah.
What was this bow and arrow thing as well? Are you an archer?
Yeah, I did archery since I was like pretty young,
Mhm.
like probably around like maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that. And there was like this class project thing with Native Americans and pilgrims and shit. And this is pre 9/11, so things were more lax.
Mhm.
So I brought the bow and arrow as part of my like Native American character. And I had actual arrows. So I just knocked an arrow. I was going to just shoot him because, like, again, I don't like him. And I wanted him to see his death coming. So he wasn't paying attention.
So you didn't do it for that reason.
Well, he wasn't paying attention. So I said, "Hey, David." So he looked over. He freaked out and like he was like, "Oh my God, help." And I just like, again, just synapses in my child brain started going. And I'm like, probably go to jail for this or something.
How old were you when this happened?
So it's grade 4. I think I would have been like 9-ish.
You were 9 and you, in the same grade, within 1 year, you almost killed 2 students.
No, it's the same
same kid. Okay.
Yeah, I almost killed him twice.
You almost killed him twice. Was the bow before or after?
After.
Okay. He must be so afraid of you to this day. He's probably terrified of you.
Yeah, maybe.
Did people in your school see you as like psychotic or dangerous or anything?
No, I got along with most people.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just him, really.
Yeah.
It was a big issue. So if someone really fucks with you, like you do get genuinely like homicidal rage potentially.
Yeah, like I think I had a lot less control over my anger when I was a kid. So yeah, when I was like really young, and again, your frontal lobe isn't like developed when you're that age. So I could really easily just go off on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. But it wasn't seen as like you mentioned autism. Or do you actually have autism or do you just suspect?
So I've never been officially diagnosed, but I've taken some like basic tests online. I did talk to a psychologist friend of mine years ago, informally. He thought I might have it. And
like Asperger's or?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what type. And my wife thinks I might have it. Like she knows me better than anybody. Yeah, there's just some weird stuff about me.
Okay. Yeah. One other weird thing you mentioned to me was you thought you might have traits of ASPD or antisocial personality disorder, which for more common terms for people is a sociopath or a psychopath, I think are the two ends of that.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as like sociopathic or?
Yeah, kind of. I lack empathy for people. The way I think, like, as long as people don't get in my way, I don't care. Like, I'd rather just generally not be around too many people or associate with them or get to know them. There's some people that I think are cool that I, become friends with. But if they kind of get in my way and start fucking with me, I have no problem fucking with them.
Right. You mentioned there was one time when you like brutally beat some kid.
Yeah.
When you were still in high school still?
Yeah, this was high school. Think I would have been about 16, 17.
Okay. And you were into lifting by that time?
Yeah.
Were you pretty jacked or were you trying to go more lean?
For my age, I would have been pretty jacked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this kid, what was your beef with him? Was he your former friend or something?
Yeah, he was kind of like the Cartman of a friend group I had. And I lent him video games that he stole, and I saw him kick his dog, and then I just beat the crap out of him.
Jesus. And you just like confronted him outside of his house? He was just there?
He was just there smoking cigarettes, and I happened to be there, so I just beat his ass.
Damn. That's crazy. Like it wasn't like a premeditated thing you were thinking all day. You just happened to be driving by.
Yeah, I just happened to be walking by, saw him. Yeah.
Beat his ass and just walked away?
Yeah.
That was it? And you felt no remorse or anything for that?
No. Think he got what he deserved, but like again, I was younger and I had really, really bad anger issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing that confuses me the most is you call yourself a sociopath, and maybe that's true. I don't really know. I'm not a doctor, but you have very high empathy for animals, like
Yeah.
in large. Like I see you post like white girl pictures of cats on your Instagram, which is cool. I like that. But like you do, like you're like, oh, the cat's so cute, whatever, all this. But then like with people, like if they fuck up a little bit, like you get like very, very angry. Obviously more manageable now, but
Yeah.
to the point where you beat one kid up and then, you know, this other kid 2 times, you almost, you know, ended his life at like age 9. So
Yeah.
it's just a little bit like,
Yeah.
it seems like a weird sort of cognitive dissonance to me. I know sociopaths have like empathy for animals sometimes and like them a lot, but you seem very, very empathetic to animals.
Yeah, like I'm even still, I can tell that I don't have quite as much of a problem with causing pain. So, like, you know, if you have to clip an animal's nails or say they're injured in some way, you have to like get them out of a fence or something. I'm not as bothered by it as like normal people having to cause pain in the interest of helping somebody,
Okay.
whether it's a human or an animal.
It doesn't like bother you that much at all.
Yeah, no, like, again, I don't internalize other people's pain the same way normal people do.
Interesting. So if you had to like, if somebody like was getting their foot eaten by a shark and they're getting their foot eaten and you have to save them, you would feel no remorse over just like pulling the shark off.
Yeah, if I had to like say cut somebody's foot off to save them, I wouldn't really feel anything from it.
Does gore bother you?
No.
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't internalize these things the same way most people do.
Okay. Well, that the way, I guess, to go back a little farther before school, before we jump to YouTube stuff, what was your family life like?
Yeah, I got into, like, it's a pretty hostile environment growing up. I had some pretty crazy hockey parents. So
Like really into hockey.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of training, had a lot of pressure on me. And if I like just didn't play well, I was kind of like shamed and humiliated by my parents.
Like in front of other kids, how would they shame you?
No, it was usually like in the car ride home, just for like fucking straight hour, them saying like I played like shit. There's no point in them like supporting me playing anymore because I suck, like, you know, that sort of crap.
Do you feel bad about that? Do you think it gave you a thick skin? Do you appreciate your upbringing or
No, that was definitely not a good thing.
not a good thing? Do you think it shaped how you are now?
I'm sure to some degree. I think I tolerate a lot of things pretty well because of my upbringing.
Like talk online? Or
Yeah,
something?
like talk online.
Gotcha.
So to some degree, it might be helpful, but you know, probably overall not great. I think it gave me insecurity issues.
Right. Well, what led you to start your YouTube channel in the first place? What was the impetus for that?
Yeah, so I went vegan just before my 19th birthday, and I was vegan for a few years before my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I was really into like health and fitness, and there wasn't really many vegan health and fitness channels. So I would just get content from like normal, you know, fitness channels, and just every so often they'd make stupid videos about how like red meat is fine, like saturated fat isn't something that's too big of a deal. And they'd like promote animal products as if there's like no ethical issue. So
Yeah.
I just got kind of fed up that there's no one fighting back against it. So decided to start my own channel.
What led you to become a vegan in the first place? From what I understand, you ate meat till you were like 20?
Well, no, again, I turned vegan just before my 19th birthday.
Okay.
So
you were 18.
yeah. So I think there were 2 things that really led to it. One was a near-death experience that I had when I had an E. coli infection in the hospital. I think I overdosed on opiates. So I had multiple surgeries to try to flush out the infection in my knee. So I was put under. I was on the highest dose of morphine they could give me, and the nurses gave me OxyContin and Percocets. And this is all in one day.
Oh,
so
you must have been in extreme pain.
Yeah, I was in insane pain. And I think I took so many opiates, I had a near-death experience. And I remember actually feeling my heart slow down and then leaving my body. And then I like became the universe. It was like this really weird out-of-body experience. I think that made me just a little more empathic because I felt like I just became everything. And then a couple years later, a friend of mine at the time who later became a very bitter enemy, he shared a video called The Best Speech Ever Told by Gary Yourofsky. animal rights activist.
Mm-hmm.
And after seeing that, I just had no excuse not to go vegan. So he argued that there's no ethical justification to eat animals. It's bad for your health, bad for the environment, just bad in every way. So just right then and there, I chose to go vegan.
Gotcha. In regards to that out-of-body experience or near-death experience, you don't ascribe any religious messaging to that or religious stuff like, I don't know, God or Christianity?
No, I've meditated quite a lot. I've had that sort of near-death experience. I've actually almost choked to death as a kid from asthma.
You have asthma?
Yeah, I had asthma as a kid. It can go away, like it can improve over time.
Yeah.
Don't think I have it really anymore. A lot of kids, I've heard, so I played hockey. I heard the refrigerators that they use for those old ice rinks, they have like ammonia spilling out of them. That can trigger asthma. But yeah, I almost choked to death. I was riding my bike, my throat just closed up, and I just sat down, couldn't breathe, figured, well, I guess I'm going to die now. And then I just woke up.
Like you passed out and woke up?
Yeah, just passed out, woke up. So I've had a number of near-death experiences. I've meditated before, and I'm pretty good at it. And I've done like magic mushrooms and shit, like pretty crazy fucking trips with high doses, like 10 grams. And never saw like anything that would suggest like a God exists in the universe.
Okay. Well, that near-death experience, that didn't seem to bother you that much that you were about to die.
No. Yeah, no.
Like death doesn't faze you?
Nope. Yeah, I've never been afraid of dying.
Well, what about like all the stuff you'd leave behind in this world, you know, all the stuff you like, people you like?
Yeah, that doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you at all?
Like, you're going to be dead. Like, we're all going to die eventually, so what are you going to do?
How does your wife feel about that?
She doesn't want me to die, like, obviously. So, like,
is she upset by the idea that if you were close to death, like you wouldn't care that much?
No, what upsets her is like I've had suicidal depression since I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
So, and I've been treating it with medication for the last like couple of years, and that's been pretty good. Right now, the medication I'm on, I haven't felt suicidal in a while, but that's what bothers her when I get suicidal. But, you know, just being okay with dying, that doesn't really bother her as long as I'm not suicidal.
How does that depression manifest? Is it like self-doubt or just not wanting to do anything?
Lack of ability to feel pleasure from anything, lack of motivation, exhaustion, and yeah, just like this feeling of, it's hard to explain, but it's just this feeling of constant pain from existing. Gotcha. And I just want it to end.
And you had that for a long time when you were a kid?
Yeah, ever since I was about 6 years old.
And you're doing better now thanks to medication?
Yeah.
Would you say that you're not depressed now?
Yeah, right now, not depressed.
Okay. Despite the meds, do you get that way sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, it can pop up.
But it's not as a result of like adversity or something happening. It's more just like a mood.
So some things have triggered it for sure. Like I've had issues with the police that triggered depression. I know that for sure, but it can just come and go. Things can be going great for me. Like I'm making a lot of money. I'm not even having to work that hard. Things are just going smooth, and then I can just get super, super depressed.
What was your conflict with the police like?
Yeah, so I lived in Toronto. Toronto police really don't like vegan activists in general. And they all watch my YouTube channel. I think like every precinct in Toronto was watching. There would be cops that'd come up to me and recognize me and say, "Oh, hey, Vegan Gains, what's up?" Like our entire department watches your videos.
So they must be afraid that you're gonna kill someone.
No, there are just some people who just wanted to fuck with me basically, or maybe misunderstood something I've said. So the first time I had an issue with the police where they broke down my door, arrested me, it was under the Canadian like Mental Health Care Act, where I'm a danger to myself or others. I said something to the effect of meat eaters deserve to die because they're killing animals, and it's like, it's an opinion. And they just broke down my door, arrested me, made me get a mental health exam. And the second time I had an issue with the police, it was really fucked up. The cop actually admitted that he lied to a judge. And he knew I had a BB gun, And I made a joke with a BB gun because I accidentally bought a pair of leather gloves. So got the BB gun, said I bought a pair of leather gloves, bang. That was the joke. So he lied to a judge, claimed I had a real gun, got a warrant, and then arrested me, fucked with me. And I just had this whole legal rigmarole for like 2 years.
Did you get fired?
No, couldn't prove it. None of it was recorded. So
When was that?
that was, I think, like 5 years ago. It was right before I was about to move to Guelph from Toronto.
Okay, interesting. What made you move there? Just like cheaper living?
Yeah, cheaper, quieter. I didn't really like how Toronto was like super busy and everything. Just a little too loud.
You're from Toronto?
Yeah.
So you grew up there in the city?
Well, not really in the city. It's Scarborough.
Okay.
So not like the downtown area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a suburb.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I think with that out of the way, we know a little bit about your past. I think the next thing just to get into before we talk about your internet activity would be your ideology in terms of veganism. I think some people would call it militant or psychotic veganism. We know where it came from. Why do you feel this way about animals? Why do you feel like they deserve so much empathy or shouldn't be killed or we shouldn't eat them when, I mean, a large portion of society, I mean, myself included, eats meat. I don't really feel bad about it. Well, I do feel a little bad about it, but I don't feel that bad about it. Not enough to stop eating it.
Yeah, I don't like injustice. I don't like it when weaker people or beings are kind of like picked on.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of that. And I think that's why I'm especially sympathetic to animals because they have no way of even fighting back.
Yeah. It's
like not a battle they can win.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe in the idea of like fundamental human rights. And I believe it's just a logical extension of human rights to grant human rights to animals. So I don't see a meaningful distinction between animals and human beings to where we can take away animal rights and not grant them human rights.
One argument I think people would make is, well, animals are far less intelligent than us. A lot of animals eat each other. Why can't we get sustenance from those animals?
Yeah, so I don't think there's any way of making a differentiation that justifies taking away animal rights without also taking away human rights. So if you're going to say intelligence is the defining factor where because animals are so much less intelligent, we can kill and eat them. Well, there are human beings that have comparable levels of intelligence to, say, a pig or dog, a cat, or a cow.
Like people with disabilities?
Yeah. So to be logically consistent, you would have to accept the idea of killing and eating people with disabilities, which I think would be wrong.
Yeah. Probably most people would disagree with that. Yeah. Okay. Well, what about, like, let's say a species like tigers, right? Tigers eat elk or whatever they eat.
Yeah.
What do we do about tigers? I mean, do we kill them?
Yeah. So as long as it reduces rights violations, I'd be in favor of killing carnivorous animals. If we're going to grant animals human rights, that means the rights would have to be protected not only from human beings, but also other animals.
I guess the question would be like, so before humans, like tigers and stuff like that existed, they ate each other. And that's part of the ecosystem, like, you know, cycle of life and death. Some animals eat other animals. Some animals eat those carnivores. And eventually they die and they turn into soil for the plants or whatever, right? All that energy gets converted. Don't you think that, you know, if you were to kill tigers, then you would have a lot of, you know, potentially invasive species or just overpopulation of whatever they eat?
Not necessarily. Not every ecosystem really relies on predatory animals. Yellowstone National Park would be an example. Ecosystem there was doing just fine without wolves. So no, not necessarily.
What about the ones that do? Like, let's say, you know, in Africa or something.
So if it were the case that if you were to kill every lion, say every other species in that ecosystem would die out, then I wouldn't be in favor of killing the lions because that would just cause more death.
But the lions are going to eat other animals. Isn't that a rights violation?
It is, but you could consider it a greater rights violation to kill the lions if lions are absolutely necessary for every other living thing there to live.
Okay. What about the fact that, like, if you kill all the tigers, let's say hypothetically there was no ecological issue, I mean, then that species is extinct. We can't, you know, we don't access them anymore. They don't exist. They're gone. Is there any reservations you have about that?
No. Look at it this way. If Nazis were a different species and they were out to kill Jews, would you have a problem with Nazis going extinct?
I guess.
You would?
I guess I wouldn't have a problem with them going extinct,
yeah.
But also to me, like a Nazi is like something you can convince out of it.
Well, I mean, it's a hypothetical, but like the idea is you have a murderous sort of being that's going to keep killing throughout its entire life. Something like that shouldn't exist.
What kind of responsibility do you ascribe to like a normal person who eats meat, who maybe doesn't think about it or hasn't thought about it very much? Like, do you see them as a bad person because they haven't thought about it? You see them as ignorant, uninformed? Like, how do you?
Yeah, I just see them as ignorant and uninformed. So I don't judge people just on the basis of them eating meat. I judge people on the basis of whether they make good choices given the knowledge they have. So if you know you're contributing to animal suffering by eating meat and you're killing animals with your food choices, if you know that, then yeah, I think you're a terrible person. If you don't and you haven't really thought about it and you're kind of indoctrinated into a society where this is normal, you don't know any better, right?
Okay. So what would the purpose be of your YouTube channel then? Is it just to spread your ideas? Is it to have fun? Like, what's the goal?
Well, the goal is to turn people vegan. And I know I rub a lot of people the wrong way, but that's just who I am. And this is my personality. This is how I talk and do things. I think a lot of people, jive with that and respect it. A lot of people don't. So I can't please everybody when it comes to activism and make everybody my friend. So I just be myself.
As far as rubbing people the wrong way, there are quite a few reasons I've seen for why people don't like you. I think the oldest one I can think of would be there's a story about you filming your grandfather dying and posting it to YouTube. Is that a real story?
Yeah. I didn't post it to YouTube.
Okay.
My family stopped me from doing that.
But you would have, I guess.
Yeah, I would have.
Okay.
So the real reason I've had years to think about it. I've had a lot of issues with my grandfather. He was pretty abusive to me.
Like physically?
A little bit physically, like he's hit me a few times, but a lot like mentally and emotionally.
Okay.
And he was a scary guy. Even like my mom and my uncles, so his kids, they would talk about having like nightmares about him throwing like explosive glass at them and shit. So like he was kind of a scary, intense dude. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship though. He's kind of like the nicest asshole you could ever, meet. I think he was mistreated a lot as a kid, and he would do things to kind of like make up for that, like make sure you get every Christmas present you want. So I think he meant well, but yeah, I just had relationship issues with him for sure. And me filming his death was kind of a catharsis to kind of deal with some of those like feelings I had about him.
Yeah.
Really, if I could do it over again, I would have just confronted him about it.
Yeah. That seems healthier.
Yeah. But if I could have done it over again, I would have confronted him about it when he was still alive.
It seems like at the time your justification was like, oh, he ate like shit. I knew he was going to die because he ate like shit. Is that also part of it?
Not really. Like I kind of saw his death coming.
Was that like your cope at the time was like, oh, I'm doing it because he's not vegan? But the reality is like you had bad experiences with him?
Yeah.
Because you seem to have a habit of like talking about people not being vegan or eating meat, and then something bad happens to them and you laugh about it. There's obviously there was a really recent one where I think some bodybuilding guy got cancer and died. And
no,
who was it?
So the guy with cancer was Furious Pete. He's still alive.
There was someone,
John Meadows, you're talking about.
Yeah,
he had a heart attack.
He had a heart attack and died.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you, I guess, laugh at his death? What about it was funny to you?
Yeah, so John Meadows was promoting this idea that saturated fat is healthy. So he was claiming butter is a health food, palm kernel oil is a health food, very high in saturated fat, and that you should stay away from these poly and monounsaturated plant fats.
Do you think he believed that for real?
Yeah. And I mean, he died for what he believed in, clearly.
Was he young? How old was he?
He was I think he was still in his 40s when he died. So he wasn't that old. He was on steroids. I'm sure that might have contributed to it. This was also during COVID, so COVID might have also contributed to it. But he ate like shit. He ate a diet very high in saturated fat. He was also on cholesterol-lowering medication, so his doctors, they knew his cholesterol was way too high. And I just thought it was funny that this guy who was promoting, eating shitty foods died of, the result of eating those shitty foods. On top of that, he actually agreed with the ethical principles of veganism. He made a few videos talking about how he doesn't like seeing animals killed. He feels bad about eating meat. So that also kind of pushed me in that direction of like laughing at his death. This is a guy who, even though he recognized what he was doing was wrong, by his own admission, he kept doing it. And I don't see that sort of death as tragic.
I guess a lot of people would say like, well, it's very insensitive to say that about him,
Yeah, I don't care.
You don't care. You would say it. You recognize it is insensitive.
Well, it's insensitive to pay for animals to be murdered. So right. I don't have any sympathy for somebody like that.
So I see this argument a lot from you when talking about some of your bigger dramas, like with someone like Critical. The drama started, from my understanding, it starts with he makes a video about this girl named like Soo Young, something like that. Yeah. She's like a Korean, I think, YouTuber who does mukbangs. And in the video, she's eating a live octopus, right? She's eating a live octopus on video. And he's like, this is animal abuse. This is disgusting. These animals are just as smart as a dog. They shouldn't even be on YouTube, is his argument, right? So you make a video calling him out. And I guess, what's your point with that call out?
Yeah, so I appreciate anybody who will stand up for animals and call out animal abuse. And I think I was pretty respectful in that initial video. The issue is there's a much bigger problem that isn't being addressed of, our diets. So it's one thing to call out Soo Young for, torturing an octopus to death, but Penguin Zero's food is being tortured to death too. And it's food that he's probably eating on a daily basis, probably for almost every meal.
Right.
So I thought it was important to draw attention to that and point out that hypocrisy. If he has a problem with an octopus being tortured to death for food or entertainment, he should have a problem with the food he eats being tortured to death for his own taste pleasure.
But his explanation would be like, oh, well, I don't pay for the abuse. I pay for just eating this chicken, right? When I go to McDonald's, I'm not thinking about, oh, well, this chicken was abused somewhere along the line. I'm thinking about, oh, well, I'm paying for the food. I'm paying for the sustenance. And he would say there's like a reason behind that.
Yeah. Regardless of what you're paying for the food for, it's still happening. It is a necessary consequence of what you're paying for. So that doesn't really do anything to absolve guilt.
Well, he would say something like, I think in the video he said something about affordability of veganism. Like it's not that affordable yet.
Well, he's a millionaire, so
well, maybe for other people is what he's saying.
Yeah. So I believe there's 3 studies currently looking at plant-based diets. There's the Wells study. It was a study on women recovering from breast cancer and seeing if they do better on a plant-based diet. Think that showed that per week food costs increased by about $1.25 per person. Insignificant. There's a Guelph University study where the Canadian Food Guide recently changed to be more plant-based. They got rid of more meat and dairy, and they found that it would save an average family about 10% on their food bill per year eating more plant foods. So it depends on kind of what foods you're eating. Obviously, like we were just eating, takeout, vegan takeout. That's going to be more expensive than if you just go to the grocery store, buy a bunch of potatoes. So food choices really matter ultimately when it comes to cost of a vegan diet. You can make it as cheap or as expensive as you want.
In your experience, is it affordable?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right now, my grocery bill is pretty cheap partly because I'm dieting, but I'm also just making all my own food.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you don't eat out a lot?
No. Maybe like normally once or twice a week. I guess that might be a lot for a normal person, but I try to limit it.
What do you think about Charlie outside of that video, like more broadly?
So I never really watched his content.
There's that video.
Pretty much. I've seen some of his content. Like, to be honest, I think he's boring and not funny. That's why I just don't watch him. But when I saw that video, initially I thought, okay, like his heart's in the right place with the video. When he made his responses to me, I thought, wow, this guy is an 8-year-old with a beard and cannot take any criticism and just tries to obfuscate blame and guilt.
Why did you feel that way?
Well, rather than just accepting what I thought were pretty reasonable criticisms, he just made an endless series of ad hominem attacks against me, calling me crazy, wacko, unreasonable, unhinged. He just made up a series of lies talking about how basically I'm a jackass. He promoted this idea that I made fun of a kid with cancer when he knew that was not true.
Did you not make fun of a kid with
No,
cancer?
I never made fun of a kid with cancer. And he spread this lie that he knew was not true.
What did you do? Because I've seen a video of you reading out like this, like Facebook post about a kid with cancer.
So there's a strong man named Eddie Hall. On his professional Facebook page, he was promoting this fundraiser for a child who has cancer. Now, to me, it seemed as though he was exploiting the situation and this kid so that he could make himself look better. And he didn't really care about this kid with cancer. That was just what I thought. I could have been wrong, not saying I'm right, but that's what I thought.
I guess a lot of people would say like, well, even if he is exploiting him, I mean, the kid still gets benefit, if he raises money for him, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't really my area of concern. My concern was this guy is exploiting somebody who is going through something bad for his own benefit, even if it benefits the person ultimately. And people turned that into, oh, you're making fun of a kid with cancer. No, I was criticizing somebody who I thought was taking advantage of a kid with cancer.
I think a lot of people see when you say like, okay, Charlie uses ad hominems, and then they see the kid with cancer thing, whatever your intention was, or they see you making fun of this John Meadows guy having a heart attack and he died, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, isn't this kind of disanalogous? Like, you have a problem with Charlie using ad hominems, but you don't have a problem with like making fun of stuff like that.
Well, an ad hominem is a personal attack in place of an argument. If I have, I don't know, a macabre sense of humor, I don't see what the problem is.
So you see it as like different. Like he uses ad hominems to excuse criticism. You use it as like part of it.
Well, it's not an ad hominem. It's simply a joke.
What you use.
Sorry?
What you say is not an ad hominem.
Yeah, by definition, it wouldn't be an ad hominem because an ad hominem is a personal attack in place of an argument. So Charlie's making ad hominems. If I'm making fun of somebody who died, that's insensitive humor, but it's not an ad hom.
One of Charlie's points in that video, and something that I might agree with a little bit, but I'm curious to hear your response, would be he thinks that you kind of make veganism look bad or make vegans look psychotic with sort of your sense of humor or the jokes you make. How do you feel about that?
Well, if I make fun of somebody who died, I don't really know what that has to do with veganism. I think they just have emotional issues where they can't separate my own personality, my own thoughts and feelings from the actual ideological principles of veganism.
I guess their argument would be like, well, you're a vegan activist, so you're kind of trying to tie it all in together. I guess they see it as like a bad representation. Have you had like vegans that don't like you?
Yeah, quite a few.
How do you feel about that?
They can go fuck themselves. Don't care.
Doesn't bother you?
No.
Do you think it's more beneficial for you to work with them in an effort to help veganism?
Well, I'm fine with working with people. It's other people that have an issue with working with me. So there's plenty of people I don't like. There's plenty of things that I wish people would do differently. But despite that, I have the interest in working for a common goal, which is, spreading veganism. A lot of vegans, however, don't have that goal in mind. And rather than just cooperating for a greater interest, they just refuse to, work or associate with me.
I guess they would say that some of your takes make them not want to be associated with you because you make fun of people with cancer. They'd probably say that that's a bad look, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You agree it's a bad look?
Actually, I haven't really run into many issues with, that specifically for why
Okay.
activists won't work with me. It's usually down to political ideals.
Being.
I'm not a feminist. I don't support women when they make false rape claims. And that's actually been what's caused most of the issues with vegan activists, at least around Toronto.
You've had issues where you feel someone was falsely accused of rape
Yep.
and they just like shit on
Yeah,
you for it.
believe all women, that this and that, even though there's literal definitive proof that rape never occurred.
Do you feel that in general, like there is a rape culture maybe?
Um, I don't know if rape culture is the right word. There's definitely an issue with people like Andrew Tate. There's certainly a culture of men who will not believe victims, even when there's clear evidence that the person did in fact commit a rape and is guilty. So I don't know if rape culture is the right word. I guess there are subcultures like that, like Andrew Tate followers, who won't believe any women no matter what, or even when they acknowledge it did happen, well, it's their fault.
Yeah.
So there certainly is a problem with that, and I've made plenty of videos against Andrew Tate and red pill ideology like that.
Do you think there's probably more actual rape than false rape accusations?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
So I don't know how many false rape accusations there are as a percentage of like reported rapes, but pretty much certainly.
How'd you feel about, like, I guess topically, like the Russell Brand thing? How'd you feel about that?
Oh yeah, I think he's guilty as fuck.
Why do you think he's guilty?
So there's corroborating evidence with the victim's claims. So the cell phone text message. If you have to profusely apologize after sex, you probably raped somebody unless you like pooped your pants or pissed on somebody. So yeah, he's
I guess so.
he's guilty.
Okay, you think he's guilty?
Yeah.
How do you feel about? I guess one thing I disagree with is like YouTube or like demonetizing him, or I think like the UK government like emailed Rumble or something. It was like, hey, can you demonetize this guy? How do you feel about that? I mean, it's not proven in a court of law, right? Do you see that as like an ethical issue for them?
Yeah, so these are private platforms. They can do whatever they want. I think given the evidence that exists already, I think it's well within reason to demonetize him. And if he's able to prove his innocence, then, perhaps reinstate him, like reinstate his monetization. But I think there's enough evidence already in the way he's behaving, after being presented with these allegations that it's totally reasonable to demonetize him.
Do you think freedom of speech is an important principle or doctrine we should uphold?
Yeah, so I don't see demonetizing somebody as a free speech issue. Free speech only prevents the government from intervening. When you're talking about private platforms who can, do whatever they want on their own private platform, that's not a free speech issue.
I guess the argument from my perspective is like, well, these platforms are so big, they're so vast. I feel like they, at this point, almost serve as a public utility for anyone to get out there and speak their message, whatever it may be. I agree the evidence against someone like Russell Brand looks somewhat compelling, but I also think that restricting that freedom without any government interference, I feel like would be pretty bad. Like without like someone like. But then this is complicated because of someone like EDP445. I don't have a problem with his channel being banned because it's so dead to rights. Like they caught him in the act. With this one, with Russell Brand, like I'm inclined to believe it, but I feel like there's still wiggle room. And the question also becomes like, are they going to victimize more people? EDP, undoubtedly. I mean, he, undoubtedly. For Russell Brand, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think there's enough evidence that he's guilty where it would be reasonable for them to deplatform him if they so chose. Like again, they have to make money, right? Having pedophiles, rapists, Nazis on your platform, bit of an issue when it comes to advertisers. So they got to do what they got to do. There is an issue with it being a public square, them having like practical monopolies in these spaces, but they are businesses and they do have their own interests. So I don't think it's in the greater good or interest to force YouTube to keep pedophiles, rapists, Nazis on their platform.
What about like when you got banned? You are someone who I like. I'm not trying to get anyone to with you in that way, but you got your channel deleted. I would say you're probably relatively advertiser unfriendly.
Some of it. Some of my content.
Enough.
Yeah.
Enough that like probably
Maybe.
Manscaped would be wary.
Yeah. So I got banned because some YouTube moderator who probably didn't speak English, probably from like India or Pakistan or somewhere, thought that I was promoting animal abuse when obviously I do the opposite. And I got banned for that reason. So then after I signed up with a MCN, they were able to contact YouTube directly and I got my channel reinstated.
Is that how you found out this information?
Yeah. Since
so
then,
you know it definitively, like from inside the matrix.
Yeah. Since then, obviously, I've kind of tried to moderate my own content a bit more. Not as many making fun of people with cancer type videos.
But it does happen. I mean, I think you making fun of the guy who died of cancer recently wasn't even that long ago, right?
Well, it's like a year, I think.
I mean, a few years after the ban.
Yeah, a year, or maybe 2 years ago. Yeah.
And do you feel bad at all for like laughing at someone who died of cancer?
Well, he didn't die of cancer, he died of a heart attack.
Sorry, a heart attack.
Yeah.
Does it depend on the person? Like if someone
Depends on the person.
If someone lived your lifestyle and died of cancer, would you make fun of them?
No.
No? Because they lived a healthy lifestyle that didn't contribute to that?
Well, no, I just don't see why they deserve that sort of criticism, right? Like, again, John Meadows dying of a heart attack. He was promoting a terrible diet, which if other people were to follow it, they'd probably die of premature death just like him. So
you see it like as far as the criticism, you don't think there's any point that's like too far, especially if it like is, I guess, in your mind, logically consistent. Like they ate cancer-causing food or something, or they ate food that caused a heart attack, and he dies of a heart attack. You see that as like...
Yeah, or they knowingly promoted, animal suffering and death with their food choices. Yeah, I just don't have sympathy.
I guess this brings up an interesting question to me. You said I'm the first person who's interviewed you, right?
Yeah.
Like truly done like a sit-down in real life interview.
Yeah.
You haven't really done collabs with other YouTubers, right?
No, not really.
You've met a few at bodybuilding conventions or something.
Yeah.
But they weren't eager to see you.
No, like most people who come up and say hi, they watch
nice.
my channel regularly. Yeah, they're nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
I guess, okay. I find it interesting that no one's really done a sit-down interview because I feel like you're an interesting person who has an interesting belief system. Do you think that nobody's talked to you because just you're so abrasive or they feel insecure when you confront them about stuff? Like, whoa, what exactly is your feeling? Do you think it's because you're so abrasive? Like, I feel like a lot of people automatically, they hear you made fun of the kid with cancer, whether you see it that way or not. They hear about this John Meadows thing and they're like, this guy, or even they hear that, it's interesting for me to meet you because you, as I've met you, you've told me like if it was legal, you'd probably kill meat eaters or force them to stop eating meat, or else you would, end their life. Do you say that on YouTube, by the way? Have you said that before?
Yeah.
Like, and they're fine with that?
I guess. Like, again, I'm not going to kill anybody because it just wouldn't make any sense. I'd just go to jail. Wouldn't accomplish anything. But
if you didn't go to jail? In
an ideal world, or in a video game, so to speak, yeah, like I don't know why I'd have an interest in letting people live when they're supporting a Holocaust.
A Holocaust of animals.
Animals, yeah.
People would say, well, it's like insensitive to compare the Holocaust where 6 million, Jews died to, a bunch of chickens dying is what they would say.
Yeah. So the word Holocaust comes from the Greek word holokausto, which means fully burnt animal sacrifice. Holocaust wasn't really used to describe human tragedies until fairly recently, like in the late 19th century. So if you're talking about, the word being co-opted by vegans, like again, initially it was a word to describe animal deaths. Then it was used to describe human deaths. So on top of that, a lot of the Jewish freedom fighters at the time also compared Jews going on the, trucks to Auschwitz, or the train, the cattle cars to Auschwitz. They compared it to lambs going to slaughter. So there's even among Jews, there have been a lot of analogies made with animals. And again, like I just ask you to name a trait. So if you think that there's a fundamental difference between, human beings being holocausted and animals being holocausted, what trait are animals lacking that if humans were lacking, them en masse wouldn't be a holocaust?
Interesting. Well, I guess the thing that I find interesting is nobody's done that with you. Now that I have, we ate dinner together once. We worked out twice. You've been to my place a few times. I'd say we're becoming friends a little bit. Does it make you like uncomfortable? Are you angry with me for the fact that I eat meat? Like, are you like maybe you're not actively pissed off? It bothers you.
Yeah.
Could you be friends consistently with someone who does eat meat?
Yeah, I'd already consider you a friend. I think you're a nice guy.
Are you being friends with me under the hopes that I will become vegan?
Well, no, I'd still be friends with you either way, I think.
But you are
I'm
hoping.
hoping, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Would you be willing to be friends with more YouTubers and have conversations with them if they were willing to just talk to you?
Yeah, I mean, if Penguin Zero were willing to have a cordial conversation with me, then sure.
You think he would do that?
I don't think he would. So
why is that?
Well, I think he's afraid of debating me.
Do you think he thinks that you would school him?
Yeah, I think he's afraid that I'd prove him wrong and show that he's a hypocrite and an animal abuser.
I think a big part of that kind of situation is likability. They see Charlie as like a very relatable, likable guy. I mean, it's part of the reason he's so famous. I find him to be relatable. We have the same music taste. I do find him kind of funny, admittedly, which I know you don't, but I do. And even if, maybe I don't see him as the most logically consistent person, I'm willing to accept that hypocrisy because I think he's really interesting. I think he's really interesting. I think he's a good person overall. I don't think he has ill intent.
I don't think he is.
You don't think he is?
He's not a good person. So, he'll make videos, calling out So Young, talking about how animal abuse is so bad. It's easy to say that, right? It's easy to say, that child rapist is such a bad person. It's easy to say, that person abusing animals is such a bad person. It's harder to actually acknowledge that you're doing something that's creating a similar harm and then actually change your lifestyle. He's not willing to actually make a necessary change to support what he actually believes in. So he's not a good person. He's somebody who can identify wrong, but he's not somebody who's willing to stop committing wrong himself.
Do you think child rape is worse than eating meat?
Yeah, I'd probably say yes.
Okay. Because I would too, just because there's there's an emotional thing there, right?
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of it disgusts me. I think in a lot of ways it can cause more harm. In some ways it's less harmful because they're still alive, but I'd still probably say it's worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess outside of your beef with Charlie, there's been a few other YouTubers who have picked fights with you. I know within the fitness community, there's quite a few people who hate you. Obviously, we don't have to go over all of them, but what would be like the top one guy that you think sucks in the fitness community that you like to talk about?
Sucks in the fitness community that I like to talk about.
Or just someone that pisses you off?
Probably Hamza. Hamza Ahmed.
You've been talking about him a lot. He's sort of a red pill, sneako-ish guy.
Yeah, he doesn't like calling himself red pill, but he's essentially part of the red pill community, maybe more specifically the male self-improvement community.
What do you see as bad about Hamza?
Just about everything. He's incredibly ignorant. A lot of the advice he gives is either dead wrong, misleading, inaccurate. He does not say anything that's remotely close to being supported by science. He's dishonest. He lies a lot. So yeah, there's a number of reasons why I don't like him.
Is there like a specific thing that pissed you off about him at first, or something that you could name right now that like would be like, oh, this sucks?
Yeah, he makes shit up. He'll make up stupid stories and relate it to, I don't know, some sort of moral that he believes in, but he likes to do things like humble brag and say, I really support marriage and, not being promiscuous, being in a committed relationship. And then he'll say things like, I broke up with this girl and I was so sad. So I like fucked all these women and I had like all these threesomes and, oh, I was so degenerate. Like,
Think he didn't do that?
no, it's an intentional humble brag to say, oh, I had sex with so many women, but don't do that. That's bad.
As a famous guy, you don't think he gets some?
I'm sure he can get laid. Anybody can, but yeah, I don't see too many women really being interested in him.
What do you think about the red pill in general with people like Tate, Sneeko, Fresh and Fit, Hamza? Obviously, these guys probably all have disagreements with each other, but what do you think about that community now that it seems to be on its way out a little bit?
They started off as maybe being not too bad. I think there was a purpose for them to exist.
Which is helping men?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of women's channels. And I mean, this has existed for a long time, even in magazines, movies, TV, where women can get advice on how to improve their relationship with men, including like sexual advice, relationship advice, like how to relate to your boyfriend or husband more. That just never really existed for men. Like there wasn't any kind of rule book or something for men, like how do you talk to a girl, how do you ask somebody on a date, like stuff like that. So red pill kind of existed as sort of that same kind of blueprint to help dudes who are maybe a bit socially awkward, don't know how to navigate these things. It's slowly morphed into far right wing radicalism, where you have people like Sneeko, Fresh and Fit promoting a Nazi like Nick Fuentes. Mm. Yeah.
Gotcha. You don't like Nick at all?
No, he's a just human scumbag. He's a Nazi. He wants to Holocaust the Jews, gay, trans people, and he's openly admitted this.
Mm. How do you feel about like people doing content with him? Do you think he like should never be platformed or talked to, or?
Yeah, no. I don't think anybody should really platform him unless you're doing it in the interest of debunking or proving him wrong.
I think some people might say that about you and I talking. For example, Nick has undoubtedly, he probably does want that. But under society's current standards, he can't do it, and he probably will never do it, and he would never do it right now, right? With someone like you want to kill, or you wouldn't have a problem maybe killing meat eaters, but because of the law, you're avoiding that. You're avoiding that. Do you see that as like I might get shit for having you on my stuff, and I think that someone like Nick, I don't agree with what he says, but I feel like it's interesting to talk to these people. It's good content. It's even interesting for societally. I think that it's probably good for people to confront these ideas and figure out why they disagree with them.
Yeah, I don't think we're at a point where we really need to figure out whether or not we support holocausts of ethnic minorities. Mm-hmm. So I don't see the meaning behind platforming him. I think there is certainly a conversation to be had as to whether or not human beings who kill and eat animals can justify their own existence.
Do you think that I'll get shit for having you on?
Yeah, for sure. Everybody gets shit for.
Do you think that's justified?
No. Like, I mean, everybody can have their own opinion, but I mean, I don't see anything wrong with what I'm saying.
People would say that you wanting to kill people is wrong.
Well, I think people wanting to kill animals is wrong, and that's why I want to stop them from doing it. And if the only way to stop them would be to kill them, then I think that's justifiable.
Their explanation would be like, okay, well, we don't really want to kill animals. We need it for sustenance. Like we are natural, I guess, carnivores. We eat meat.
Yeah, we don't need it for sustenance. I've been vegan for 13 years. I can guarantee that I'm bigger, stronger, healthier than probably 99% of your audience.
Yeah, you are scary. For anyone in real life who's watching this, I don't know if you can tell. We might look kind of the same height right now because he's kind of slouched over, but you're like, what, 6'2"?
6'3".
6'3", 250-ish pounds. Yeah. He in the gym, he can lift like, I think I saw you bench like over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone bench that in real life, so it is pretty crazy.
Yeah, my best bench is 380.
Do you see that as like a crowning achievement?
Yeah, like I'm pretty proud of that. I wanted to bench 405, but I have that injury in my elbow.
Do you think you'll
So
get to
that'll have to
405
wait.
or no?
Yeah, yeah. It'll just have to wait for a while.
What's the ultimate goal for you for weightlifting?
I want to bench 405. That's my biggest goal. I also want to get my squat up to 500 pounds.
Once you get there, is there any number that will satisfy you?
I always want to improve, so I might have other interests down the road. I have developed other interests aside from weight training before, so I got into road cycling for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So my interests might change, but for right now, as a long-term fitness goal, yeah, those are numbers I want to hit.
Okay, what's the ultimate goal of your channel, and I guess your life right now, as someone who, like, you get called a clout chaser a lot. I don't think you're that. I see why people don't like you, but to me, you come across as someone who sacrificed a lot of personal connections or success you could have had in exchange for your lifestyle. I mean, certainly there are much larger weightlifting channels than you that are not vegan, that don't say the things you say. Even in this podcast, you've been overly candid in a way that I didn't really think you would be. I thought you would hold back a little bit, but you seem like totally, like, I put, you're like a computer. Like, I put a question into the computer, it instantly tells me. There's no, reservations. There's no like thinking about it. It's just like, oh, that's what I think. I'll say it right now.
Yeah. I think honesty is extremely important. Honesty is something that I value a lot, and I have nothing to hide. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you ask me something, I'll answer honestly.
Do you think that everyone should be like everyone should be honest about everything?
Absolutely. White lies might be okay. Like, I lie to my wife about doing the dishes. Yeah, I'll do it later.
Same.
But yeah.
Actually, I don't even lie. I just say I'm not doing it. Yeah. Yeah. The dishes suck. This might be a little personal, but if we're talking about red pill stuff and dating life, did you date a lot before you met your girl?
No. Before I became sexually active, so when I was in my early teens, I always fantasized about like fucking tons of different women. Thought it was hot to like have sex with people you don't really know that you just met. Then when I did it, it sucked ass.
So you were intimate with a few people, and then you were like,
yeah.
This is not for me.
Yeah, it's not for me. Then I only really looked for good long-term relationships. And then I met Jasmine online, and we just really clicked, and then things just grew, and we eventually got married.
Was it like a dating app? How'd you meet?
No, Facebook. She messaged me on Facebook, and we ended up playing Call of Duty together. Yeah, and that's how we first met.
Do you remember what the first conversation was? Like, was it just like, hey, you want to play COD? Or was it like, I love your veganism? Like, what was that like?
No, I can't really remember. I think she said she like watches my YouTube channel, enjoys my content, and just she offered to like, talk and be my friend basically. I had a lot of girls messaging me saying that they want to like meet up to have sex, or like they would make it. I could see, like, read between the lines that they were more interested in sex than like actually a long-term relationship.
You didn't really care for that?
No. And Jasmine, when she messaged me, it seemed like she actually was interested in a long-term relationship. So yeah, I just messaged her back.
In regards to that kind of stuff, there's another kind of intimate question, which is, I think you put it to me as you have a hentai addiction.
It's not an addiction.
It's not an addiction. Yeah. Maybe you just use that more as a joke, but you watch.
Did I say addiction?
I think you did. Maybe I'm misremembering. I think you said it, but it's kind of like a.
Yeah, if I did, it
you were
would have been a
goofing a little bit.
It's not an addiction. Like, everybody faps every once in a while. So
yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah. Just I like watching hentai when I fap.
How long have you been into hentai?
I think I started watching it when I was probably like 15 or 16.
Do you watch normal porn at all?
Yeah, a little.
But mostly hentai.
Yeah, it's like 80% hentai, 20% normal porn.
What is it about hentai? Like, what is so captivating? I've never, like, it's like a cartoon. Like, I just can't.
There's probably two things. So because they're drawn, you can make anybody look like anything. And usually hentai characters are just really beautiful looking. Like, they look perfect. And two, I think the stories.
Do you watch it for the plot?
Well, there's a lot of like interesting sexy taboos that you see in hentai that you don't really see in normal porn. Like, right. People just end up fucking, and hentai, somebody will have like invisibility powers in their school classroom, stuff like that. And it just makes it more interesting.
That's not like, I found that to be very weird. Like tentacle stuff, like that's so wacky.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand tentacle porn. It's not the tentacles that are sexy. What's sexy is the control that like tentacles have. So they can like grab all a girl's arms, legs, and do what like that's what's sexy about it.
Okay, interesting. Wow, that's different. Have you talked about that stuff a lot on YouTube?
Yeah, like I mention it a fair bit whenever anybody like talks about porn or something.
How do you feel about some of your other YouTube beefs? Like the way I found you was back in the day. I was a pretty casual Leafy viewer back in 2015, 16, 17. And I remember he made a video about you. I think it was something to the effect of like "Psycho Vegan wants to kill me" was the title or something like that. How did that come about? Did you pick a fight with him?
No, he made a video just about me. So he thought I was like a lol cow or something. He made a video about me, and then I made a video response back. I don't think he made a follow-up response, but yeah, I just had an insane amount of Leafy sycophants leaving comments on all my videos.
How do you feel about Leafy?
Hate him. I think he's a piece of trash.
Why?
He's just a degenerate loser. He
like his lifestyle, or like,
yeah, he always punches down at people. He did that throughout his entire YouTube career. He'd find people who were like autistic, disabled, make fun of them. I think right now he's like a drug addict loser, just doing nothing with his life. He's buddies with Nick Fuentes, and I can't tell if like Leafy's actually a Nazi and promotes like a bunch of the bigotry Fuentes does, or if he's doing this for attention.
I think it's just, in my perspective, it's kind of a clout thing. Like he just wants to get the most attention and get the biggest rise out of people possible. Yeah, I think that's it. Because his beliefs are paper thin.
Yeah, probably, but yeah, I think he's just a piece of trash.
How do you feel about grade A under A?
I don't really feel anything about him. He's annoying as shit. I've literally only seen 30 seconds worth of content from him.
Didn't he make like 2 like videos about you back in the day? Like grade versus vegan gains part 1 and 2. And he really hated you.
Yeah, I literally could not watch them. He has the most annoying voice ever. And I know people say I have an annoying voice, but his voice was so goddamn annoying I couldn't watch.
I found his voice to be kind of endearing, but I do get, he's like Jacksepticeye on steroids.
Yeah, he exaggerates his accent and everything and his voice, and it just annoyed me.
Yeah, interesting. Are there any other YouTubers other than someone like Hamza who you'd want to call out? I know you've done quite a few streams with Destiny. I assume you have a pretty favorable view of him.
I like a lot of his political views. I disagree with some things. Obviously disagree with him on veganism.
Yeah.
Don't like some of the things he's done, like, the collabs he's done with Nick Fuentes. But overall, don't have too many problems with him. But yeah, I would want to have a debate with Charlie. Yeah, Moist Critical or Penguin Zero.
Yeah, at least get that set up. I feel like it wouldn't happen, but especially in real life, if you had a room with like a set, like a debate stage, I feel like that'd be really good. Like time to respond.
Yeah, if he could like have a debate with me over Discord, I'd appreciate that.
That'll be easier.
Yeah, I don't think you will.
Is there anyone else that you really want to debate who you think is not going to do it?
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, they might be a little out of your, not to offend you, but they might be a little out of your reach or whatever. I mean, they're so mainstream. How do you feel about YouTube stuff in general? You still having fun with it? You've been doing it for, 8 years at this point. It's been quite a while.
Yeah. I've mostly moved towards streaming, but I'm going to start uploading more content again. I just have more of that itch again. Again, with like most of the things in my life, I just follow what I'm like more passionate or interested in. So yeah, I've really been into streaming for the last few years, and I've just started to get an itch for making more videos. Gotcha.
How does your family feel about your job? How did your friends at the time feel about your job?
Yeah, my friends thought it was fine.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, same with my parents.
They like there wasn't any real reservation for them.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. It sounds unexpected considering they were like super anal about hockey stuff when you were younger. Were they like that about academia or no?
No.
They just really like hockey.
They knew I was smart, so I don't think they were too worried about me with school. Yeah.
How'd you do in school?
Not great. Like in high school, I didn't do any work. I literally did like no assignments and I just took tests. So
But like you managed to pass.
yeah, I just got passing grades.
That's good. Did you go to college?
Nope.
Right after, so after high school, are you working a job at that point before YouTube?
Yeah, I was starting to do freelance photography. And then after doing that for a while, I did YouTube.
From what I understand, through photography, you developed like a bitter enemy who you regard as like one of your enemies to this day.
Yeah. A guy who's a friend of mine set up a shoot with a girl who was a glamour model, and she wanted to do some fitness modeling too. And I think she even was going to have a contract with Playboy. And he ended up stealing my photos after the shoot because I think he got jealous that this girl was showing interest in me. And then what ended up happening was it turns out this woman was transgender.
Okay.
She had bottom surgery. So like I filmed her while she was totally naked and I just couldn't tell. And she said that to try to get the photos that she thought she was going to get from the shoot back from him because she was pissed off too. And yeah, I had a huge fight with that guy. He threatened me. I threatened him. And yeah, I've just been bitter enemies with him since.
Would you describe yourself as terminally online, if you're familiar with this term?
I don't know what that is.
Basically means you spend like a lot of time on the internet, potentially to the detriment of your life outside of it.
No. Most of my day is spent like training. If I like what I do normally is I'll either listen to music or I'll listen to just videos about stuff I'm interested in. Yeah. So right now I've been listening to like a lot of racing videos. So like Formula One and GT3, GT4. And I just work out listening to that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Is there anything else you want to say before we end this interview, just about your career, about your life in general? Anything that like, if a viewer came to this video not liking you, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, I don't think they have any reason to not like me based on my beliefs, maybe based on how I act, how I sound. Everybody has their own sensibilities. But if you're going to honestly say you don't like me based on my beliefs, then I challenge you to debate me, because I think my beliefs are pretty well grounded and justified. So if you're going to say that my beliefs are nonsensical or I'm crazy for believing the things I believe in, like veganism or carnivorous animals, or thinking that it's justified to kill humans to save animals, then come debate me. I'll debate anybody. So just message me and I'll debate you.
One more thing. Okay. The babies. Why do you not? Yeah. I've asked you this a few times. I still can't wrap my head around it. You have a hatred of babies. There's this clip of you where you're like, it's not a hatred. It's a fear. You have a fear of babies. Yeah. There's this clip where you're like, I want to put my foot through the fucking thing.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Well, obviously, but what do you not like about babies?
They're just creepy as shit and they scare me.
What does that mean? It's like a cute little baby, you know?
They're not cute. They have like these weird bald heads, bulging eyes, creepy little toes and fingers. Yeah, they just creep me out and they make really annoying sounds.
So you would never want to have kids?
Nope. I have a vasectomy and my wife has a hysterectomy, so it would be literally impossible for us to have kids.
Do you think if you had a kid, you would come to love it?
No.
No.
I don't think I have any paternal instincts.
That's crazy. I thought everyone kind of had that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Has it always been the case, like since you were young?
Yeah, even when I was like when I was old enough to be lucid, so probably like around 3, 4, when your memories start to form. Yeah. Really creeped out by babies.
That's so odd. That's interesting. The YouTuber who's creeped out by babies, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, my YouTube channel, Vegan Gains, my OnlyFans, Vegan Gains, and
Okay.
my Instagram, vegangains.real. You can find me on there.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, if you guys want, check them out. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Handshake.
All right.
My producer's encouraging that. Thanks for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. Maybe it was a little eye-opening, a little bit of a perspective changer. And if it wasn't, hopefully you at least enjoyed the conversation. So